Hello and welcome back to day 2 of the 7-day Quick Start programme from Old Town Hypnotherapy. Now I left you on at the end of yesterday talking about serotonin. Before I go on to explain more about the physiology, which I will do tomorrow, I want to talk first about focus, and this will lead in and explain why I want to talk about serotonin, the physiology, tomorrow. Because what you are focusing on will influence that physiology. So it's quite important to talk about this focus first. Now, when I was telling you about the brain yesterday, I was explaining about how we have this intellectual brain, we have our conscious mind. Now, our conscious mind can only focus on 5 to 7 things at a time, give or take 2. And so what you decide to focus your conscious brain on will determine what you think about. And how you think will have a positive or negative influence on your mind, your body, your physiology, your life, in fact. It all comes from how you're thinking about things. Now, when you're in a good place, when everything is going right in life, when you're succeeding, when you're relaxed, happy and in control, your conscious part of your brain, the bit you know of as you and the bit that we're using at the moment, is working with your vast intellectual resource. Okay, and this intellectual resource will always come up with answers based on a proper assessment of the situation and is generally very positive. So when things are going well, that's where you tend to work. Those two parts work together. However, if your anxiety levels have gone up, what you will find is that your conscious brain is working together with your primitive brain, that fight or flight mechanism. And if you like, you can say your primitive brain hijacks your conscious brain. And what it does, it encourages you to focus on everything that's wrong. It comes back to, if you had that polar bear outside your house, right? Your primitive brain is not going to let you forget it's there. It's going to keep remind you about it because it thinks that there's some sort of crisis, emergency or danger. Now, when you're thinking in a negative way, when you are worrying about the future, negatively forecasting the future, or negatively introspecting about the past, it has the same effect on the brain. You're focusing on negative stuff, so your anxiety levels are going up. Now, when your anxiety levels get to a certain point, like that max fill level, like on your kettle of your stress bucket, this primitive brain steps in and it hijacks your imagination and it hijacks your conscious brain because it wants you to focus on the problems and it wants you to imagine the worst possible scenario and imagine everything else that could go wrong around it. Excuse me. So what you focus on will increase. It will hijack your imagination and increase even more. And if this is a negative thing, what it's doing is it is putting more and more anxiety in your stress bucket. So you keep locked on to this primitive brain. So it's really important to be aware of what you're focusing on and what you are thinking about. So if I ask you a question at the moment, what's the most important thing in your life, or what is on your mind most at the moment? Have you said a problem? Probably. And the problem, the more and more you focus on it, whatever the problem is, the bigger and bigger and bigger it grows. Okay, so it ends up dominating your thoughts all the time. And the bigger it grows, the more anxiety it creates, the more that goes in your stress bucket, and the more you get locked into the primitive brain that encourages you to focus on the negative. On the flip side of that, the good news is that if you focus on positive things, those things grow. So if you are focusing on building yourself and building your life, those things will grow and get better as well. So whatever you focus on grows. And that's why we must focus on positive things. And it's absolutely no good at all saying to you, well, don't think about that. Don't think about your problems. Don't think about money. Don't think about your relationship or your partner or whatever it is, or your job or whatever it is that's worrying you. As soon as somebody says to you, don't think about it, of course, that's all you can think about. And if I said to you, don't think of a pink elephant, what's in your head? What's popped into your head? A pink elephant, of course. And if I say to you, don't think of that pink elephant chasing a blue elephant round, what's in your head? A pink elephant chasing a blue elephant round. So it's absolutely no good at all trying to focus your mind on what you don't want. Your brain can only focus on the object in question. It will ignore the don't think about, don't do. It will just focus on the object in question. So you can't tell it not to think about whatever it is you're worrying about. It just doesn't work. What you need to do is to refocus it on positive things. Okay, and there are a number of things that you can do to help that. The first is being aware of what you're thinking about. Okay, having that awareness that your mind has slipped off thinking about whatever was worrying you. And also to be aware that not thinking about it is not going to create a disaster. It's not going to go away because you're not thinking about it. You're not going to drop the ball, so to speak, because you're not actually focusing on it. Your intellect is what is going to come up with the answers, not this primitive brain that you're focusing on things. So as long as you're going round and round in circles worrying about whatever it is you're worrying about, you are preventing your intellect from actually coming up with a solution. So this is why you need to get off thinking about the negative stuff. So how do you do that? Well, first of all, become aware you're doing it. Because a lot of the time we do it unconsciously. We're not even aware that this is what's going on in our brain. It's doing it all by itself. So you need to get aware of it. You need to have a way of prompting yourself, if you like, to think about what am I thinking about, or to become aware. It becomes easier and easier the more you practice it. But as soon as you realise that your brain's wandered off down that negative path again, it's a click in and think, right, no, stop it. And it helps to actually get up from where you are and move. And then go and occupy yourself with doing something. Okay? Go and do something different. Do positive activity. And I will be coming back to why when I talk about the physiology tomorrow. But positive activity is one of the things that creates serotonin. If you are doing something that's physical activity, you will find it virtually impossible to think about problems. You will start thinking from a solution point of view. So if there's any sort of activity that you enjoy doing, pick yourself up and make a resolution to start doing it again if you have stopped doing it. So positive activity, but even hobbies. If you've got some hobbies that you particularly enjoy doing, or going and busying yourself with actually focusing your mind on something you're supposed to be doing. Now, if that is a task that is mainly manual and repetitive, that you don't need to use your mind to actually focus on doing, then you need something else to capture your imagination and to capture your mind, because we can quite easily do a manual task like ironing, cooking, cleaning or something, and think about the negative stuff at the same time. Right? They're two different functions. So you need something that's going to capture your brain. And one of the things that a lot of my clients have told me, have given me feedback that really works for them, is listening to audiobooks. Because you have to tune in mentally and actually listen, or you lose the gist of the story, or you don't hear what they're saying. Self-development audiobooks are absolutely brilliant. There are lots out there, but any story audiobook, anything that is going to attract the attention of your mind so that you're listening to that and your brain's not wandering off thinking about the negative stuff. Another good tip as well for being able to distract your mind when you notice it's thinking about negative things is to go and do positive interaction. In other words, go and see somebody or pick up the phone and call somebody. Now, big word of warning here. Do not call somebody or go and see somebody and then talk about your problems, because you've focused back on them again, and whatever you focus on grows. Now, people, friends and relatives and people who care about you and wish you well, if they've known you've been going through a rough time, they will often say, how's it going? How are you doing? Meaning well, of course they do. But immediately you launch off into talking about your problems and you're back focusing on them. So don't talk about your problems. Talk about them. Ask them about their life and what's going on. Or just say, oh, do you know what? I'm fed up with talking about it. Or change the subject in some way. But be with people. Have you ever had that experience, or have you not had that experience rather, of you have arranged a night out, or you've arranged to go and see somebody, or you've said you'd go to an event or something. And then when it gets nearer, you think, oh God, I can't be bothered to go. I wish I hadn't said yes to that. But you can't think of an excuse not to go. So you reluctantly go along anyway and probably tell yourself, I'll stay an hour and then I'll sneak away. Well, how many times has it happened to you that within that hour you have completely forgotten about sneaking away, you started enjoying yourself, and you've ended up having the best day or the best evening ever? That happens all the time. It's because what is happening when you are with people and interacting with them in a positive way and enjoying yourself, you are creating dopamine and serotonin, which are both good neurotransmitters, and they make you feel good. So you actually get a chemical reaction from being with other people. So that is why is if you are starting to think about negative stuff, if you can't get out and see somebody because it's at night or a time when you can't, go and talk to somebody, ring them up, get on the phone. It's not the same as getting on social media and on Facebook and things. You actually need to get on the phone or to get on to get out and see somebody, and that's really important. And then the third thing that can really help is, and this is one that you can do in that downtime. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't get back to sleep, listening to an audiobook is good in the middle of the night, but also reading something positive. Now, not just a storybook, actually reading something positive. Feed your mind with positive information. When you get into the primitive brain, well, our ancestors would have had a negative default they worked off because they were always concerned with danger. We don't need to in our modern day lives, but we still have a negative default unless you've trained your brain to think on the positive. And you meet people all the time, or I'm sure you know people in your life who, some people go, yeah, I'm a cup half full person, or I'm a cup half empty person, or I'm an optimist, or I'm a pessimist. Tend to call themselves a realist, but actually it's pessimist. And optimists do several things. One is they will always look to see the good in people. They will always find a positive out of a negative situation. And they are always thinking into the future in a positive way. Okay, they're not negatively forecasting, but they're looking forward to stuff in their future. Okay? And that's what you need to be doing. And you can train your brain to do that. And that's one of the things we talk about, how to train your brain in the 6-week intensive course, of actually how to start creating those neural networks in your mind that then stick and you become a naturally positive person. But if that's not where you are right now, you still need to keep flipping your mind away from the negative and put it back on the positive. So find stuff to feed your mind with. Find stuff to keep putting it back on the positive. So, just to recap on that, Whatever you focus on grows. Whatever you focus on dominates your life and will cause or influence which part of your brain is working. Now, you need to be working from your intellect in order to have success and a good life, be happy, calm, motivated, and in control. But if you're thinking on the negative, your primitive brain will hijack your conscious brain and will force you to think on negative things. So you need to get away from that, and you need to practice constantly to bringing yourself away from it. So the first step is awareness. Then use audiobooks, self-development books as well as storybooks. Get up, move, go somewhere different, move your position if you notice you are thinking down the negative. Go and see somebody, go out, arrange to see people, arrange to be with people. Being on your own, we're not very good on our own. We're not very good at being isolated as humans. We may think we are, we may like to be on our own, but actually that's we're not very good about that. And I'll talk about that in a different module, and also in the 6-week success program, intensive program. We talk a lot about what we are designed to be as human beings, and why we're not working that way at the moment. So be with people, even if you think you're alone and you don't want to be. Actually, that's probably part of what's causing the problem. And just be with people you like, or call somebody up. Okay. And if it's at night, read something positive. Fill your mind with positive stuff, or listen to audiobooks, or do something that's a hobby that you need to focus on. Okay. Positive activity, positive interaction, and positive thinking. Now, tomorrow I am going to talk about the physiology and the chemicals, because that is really important. And how you influence those chemicals has a major effect on your life. So we're going to be talking about that tomorrow. So thank you for your attention today. Listen to the CD again tonight that you got in the first day. Put that on every single night, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.